Alright, let's talk next about organizing principles of market systems or capitalist systems. Although economists typically prefer terms like market systems and central planner systems rather than capitalist and socialist systems, because the terms capitalist systems and socialist systems, they are more politically ideological terms rather than purely economic ones. But anyhow, so what are you going to learn? First, we will talk about the law of demand. Then we will discuss what a demand function is. We will talk about determinants of demand. And then we will look into specific goods and specifically how a demand for a normal and an inferior good reacts to an increase in income. We will talk about expectations and preferences and how they affect demand. And we will talk about how prices of related goods affect demand. And first we will discuss the case of complements, then the case of substitutes, and then we will talk about how to get from an individual demand function to a market demand function. And then we do the same thing more or less for supply. So we will talk about the law of supply, then what the supply function is, then we move to the determinants of supply, and then we will talk about how changes in production costs affect the supply curve. And we will also talk again about expectations and preferences, how they affect supply. Then we will talk about competition and how that affects supply. And finally, we will also discuss how you get from individual firms' supply functions to a market supply functions. That will be very similar to how we get from individual demand to demand functions. And the final topic is, or the final thing we will cover is how demand and supply interact into a market equilibrium. So those are basics that we will build upon then in the next lecture. And yeah, I'll just stop here and we will start with the law of demand in the next video.